start with the chanting first. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karvavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Gananam Tva Ganapatigam Havamahe Kavim Kavinamupamashravastamam Jeshtarajam Brahmanam Brahmanaspata Anashrinvanmurtibhi Siddhasadhanam. Om Shri Mahaganapataye Namaha. Saraswati Namastubhyam Varade Kamarupini Vidyarambham Karishyami Siddhir Bhavatu Me Sada. Gurur Brahma Gurur Vishnu Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha Gurureva Param Brahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Okay, so we are starting this class on the Nyaya Sutras, the system of Indian logic. As you've seen earlier also, there are the 6 darshan shastras, the 6 sciences or 6 ways of analyzing that soul reality. And out of that, one of the major ones is Nyaya Sutras, right? So we have Nyaya, Vaisheshik, Yoga, Sankhya, Purv Mimamsa and Uttar Mimamsa. All of them, they analyze different aspects of the soul reality. It's at the reality at the macro level, at the level of the total or the Atma is dealt with by Vedanta. Then that total manifesting at the gross level, at the macro level, is dealt with by Sankhya. Then Yoga deals with the mental aspect, the psychoanalytical aspect of that reality. Then Nyaya deals with the logical aspect of that reality, how to understand it by logic. कैसे हम समझ सकते हैं कि आपस में उनका हर चीज का रिलेशनशिप क्या है, and how to understand or completely established by a system of debate and discussion, this whole system of logic. And so when we go into this Nyaya, we have the basis as understanding how things work. That is the main way, how things work. So it is a very important science. And then again, we have after this Vaisheshika, which deals with the micro aspect, the smallest particles. Of course, they all deal with the other aspects also, but these are the main topics of each of these shastras, right? So, and then finally, karma mimamsa, action, karma, how each karma shapes this world, how each karma acts in this world to produce the various things that we need in this world and to maintain them, right? So that is Purmimamsa. So in this, we have seen, I have already repeated this time and again, that all of these sciences are not antagonical to each other. They are not like competing with each other. They are individual separate sciences having their own separate topics. So we should never analyze which one is correct or wrong or which one is better or worse. So that is how we have to approach these, because a lot of the discussions that you will see in the books or the texts, they are each of them is trying to prove the other wrong. That is not the proper understanding of it. It is only a method adopted by the acharyas to keep the students sticking to their field. So it is not that they were trying to prove the other wrong. It is that they were trying to keep the attention of the students focused on that particular field, right? So an example of that we can see in the 9th verse that we are currently looking into also. I'll just share that again onto the screen. The 9th verse, 9th sutra rather. So if we look at the 9th we finished. We are on to the 10th. Oh, no, we were on to the 10th, right? So the 10th sutra, Ichha, Dvesh, Prayatna, Sukh, Dukh, Jnanani, Atmano, Lingam. Iti, Atmano, Lingam. So these are all the marks of the soul. So Ichha or desire, Dvesh or aversion, Prayatna or action or effort, or it's written here volition, that is also correct. Then Sukha or joy, Dukkha or pain, and Jnanani, knowledges. It is Jnanani, knowledge in the plural. These are Atmano Lingam. These are the marks of the soul, or these are the indicators or properties or the uh, things that reside or act within the soul. So here we can clearly see one particular aspect. If you read some criticism by Vedanta or some even by Vaisheshika, where they will say that this Nyaya is talking about desire, etc., as the properties or the uh, marks of the soul. So how can soul have any property? Atma में गुण नहीं हो सकता. There cannot be an infinite that is bound by properties, right? So that applies to the total Atma. But when we are talking about the Jiva Atma or the individual soul, there the individual soul it conjoins or it merges with the Sukshma Shariram, with the subtle body. So when the subtle body is attached to it, the subtle body's characteristics and all are they're applied to this Jivatma. So Jivatma is not a separate entity like a part of the total Atma just, and in the Sukshma Sharir being totally separate, it considers them together. Uh, Even in this Vedanta also we have seen earlier also that when we are talking about the Jiva Atma, it is described as the part soul, the consciousness in combination with the Sukshma Sharira, right? So, and if you remember the verses from the Drik Drishya Vivek, so from there we have seen earlier also that in Drik Drishya Vivek we saw that the 15th verse, the Atma there is described there, the Jiva Atma, and there that difference is given very clearly, right? So, and then that is explained in the next verse also, in the 16th verse. If the 16th verse is Sakshinaha Puroto Bhati Lingam Dehena Sanyutam Chichaya Samaveshat Jiva Syad Vyavaharika. So there, I think I have it and share it. Here, the 16th verse. So Sakshina Purabhati, the Sakshi, the witness soul. How does it shine forth? Lingam Dehena Sahyutam. It is in conjunction with the Linga Deha, the Sukshma Shariram. And so that Chichaya Samaveshat, that reflection of the soul, of the total soul, of the consciousness of the total soul, when combined with these two, with the Linga Deha, it is called the Vyavaharik Jivaha, right? So another thing you have to remember here, all these terms that we are talking about in a lot of people were asking questions in the chat also there. What about Vyavaharik Drishti and Paramarthik Drishti? You have to remember, according to Veda, everything is one whole real. There is no separation of Vyavaharika, Paramarthika, and even the transaction, even if we are looking about the pratibhasik, the part where we are in the dream state, where the world appears but it is not actual. It is just a simulation, like we have a simulation in a computer, a game simulation. So when we are within that simulation, we feel we are that person in the game. So engrossed we become. Same thing with the dream also. So all these are, even though they have been defined much later by later writers, you won't find these differences in the original shastras. In fact, if I'm talking about Vedanta itself, Vedanta is not a separate book or a separate theory where you will find any of these terms. The Vedanta sutras that we talk about, they basically establish the unity of the Upanishad statement. So in the Upanishads, we are taught about the unity of the soul with the individual soul with the total soul. Jivatma, Paramatma, Ekyam. That is taught. So there in different Upanishads, different methods or approaches are adopted to establish that truth or to establish that statement. and that statement is established finally through that the main statement which we call Mahavakya, which finally culminates in that study of the Upanishads as the one denoting the Jivatma Paramatma Ekyam. So there when we are talking about that, then all of these terms are there in all the different approaches that are there. The Vedanta Sutras or the Brahma Sutras, if you would rather say it, the Brahma Sutras, they establish the unity between different Upanishad statements, because sometimes it seems that they are saying different things. So it establishes the unity there. All of the rules of logic that we saw in Vedanta, they do not exist in any of the original books of Vedanta or any of the original what we call darshan shastras, right? These are all terms developed by later acharyas to explain certain, subtle differences in the topics of this science. So that is why Vedanta has a development that has come much later. And so all this pratibhasik, vyavaharik, you will not find actually in the earlier in the original Vedanta Sutras. And not even all those rules of logic that we did, that swatmani kriya bhavat and all those rules are developed by say Sankaracharya and a lot of other later acharyas. So some of it in fact is contradicting each other, where we are talking about the dvait and advait. So between them also there are another 6 systems of logic in Vedanta itself. So all of these analyze that reality. So it is not that one is wrong or other is right. They merely emphasize different parts of the reality, right? So here when we are talking about the Ichcha, Dvesh, Sukh, Dukh, Jnanani. So the key word, as I told in the last class, is Jnanani. Knowledge in the plural, right? So obviously, when you are talking about the knowledge in the plural, then it cannot be indicating the knowledge of the total Atma. So that Atma Gyan, the Gyan of the total Atma, is different from the knowledge of the uh, manifest world. So in the manifest world, or in this world where we are transacting as jiva, where you can, according to the modern terms, use the word vyavaharik satyam. So in vyavaharik, or in the transactional world, or the world that we see here, you have all different jivatmas, and they have every knowledge also is different depending on who is observing something, and depending on the thing that is being observed, right? So these are mentioned here. So Ichha, Dvesh, Sukh, Dukkani, all of these. So when we are looking at this Nyaya Sutras, this 10th verse we have basically reached into the part where we are describing the different prameyams. So in the 9th Sutra, we have enumerated 12 objects of knowledge, 12 topics that we can study, the 12 objects that we experience or we try to know about, either through direct perception or through indirect. So all of these, the 12 of them, the prameyams. So they are Atma, Sharir, Indriya, Artha, Buddhi, Mana, Pravritti, Dosh, Pratyabhav, Phala, Dukh, and Apavarga. So these are the 12 topics that are to be known. If you want, I can share that on screen, the previous verse. Those who are listening on Clubhouse, they can maybe look up we shared the PDF earlier also there. Maybe you can look up any PDF of Nyaya Sutras, you'll get online. Many of them are available. So there you can just check it out. So here when we look at the 9th one, all these 12 prameyams are known. Atma, Sharir, Indriya, Arth, Buddhi, Mana, Pravritti, Dosh, Pratyabhav, Phala, Apavarga. So all of these are the 12 topics that you can say the objects of right knowledge, the prameyam, the things to be known, right? So when we are into this part where we are looking at these prameyams, just remember to create in your copies a note so that you can study this in an ordered and structured manner. So basically you have to create a flow chart. So first page you have to do uh, the 16 different topics, that are the topics of Nyaya. So you write the 16 tattva, the 16 tattvas, or the 16 topics or 16 elements, and there you can branch it out into all of those 16 that are there in the first verse. Then in the next 16 pages, Visions of those. So you start with the pramana. Pramana, the means of knowing. Huh? So that also has many divisions. Pramana has many divisions. So in like we saw in this Nyaya Sutras, pramana or a means of knowledge, there is one is the pratyaksh praman, then anuman praman, then the Shabda Praman, and then finally the Upaman or the comparison, method of knowing by comparison. So all of those four you can draw out in the next page, and then also of course then you can draw out their sub branches. Huh? They will come when we'll split the topics, and so similarly you can do for the next topic also. So here like we are doing the third one, Prameya. So Prameya has these 12 divisions. So this you can do on the third page. You create a flow chart. On top you write Prameyam, and then you draw 12 of these lines, 12 branches, and you can write them down. So that will give you a clear picture of what you are studying. And on below that flow chart, maybe you can write any of the definitions if you want to remember. I always prefer to write them down. We used to do it in our class, and so I would prefer that you also write it down in that way. Uh, and so now we have finished the ninth and the 10th verse sutra. So in the 10th sutra, basically we have come into the uh, Atmano Lingam, the Atma and its different lingams or its different indicators. So these are all given here, right? So when we are looking at the prameyams, then we saw the first one was Atma, next one was Sharir, the body. This gross visible body, the body that we see, right? So this body, uh, uh, how we define this body? Cheshtendriya arthashraya shariram. So if we split it up, cheshta, indriya, artha, ashraya, shariram. So shariram, the body is the abode, ashraya, where we live. So where what lives? All our cheshtas, all our efforts, all the cheshtas, all the efforts of the body, they live here. Any effort that we do has to be through the body. If we do any effort through the mind alone, that effort is not going to create an impact outside in the visible world, right? Some people talk about using mental power to move something or bend a spoon. Right. So that we are not talking about that right now. That involves a different kind of power. But basically, when we do any effort or chesta, it is through this shariram only. And then indriya and artha and then achraya. So indriya is the sense organs, and the artha, the objects of the sense organs. So all of these uh, their ashraya is shariram. So it is through the body only that we can do any kind of action, basically. What is being said here? Any kind of action. Chesta is any effort or action. So how does the chesta begin? If we see that in the Yoga Sutras also it is mentioned. So where any chesta or any effort, it begins at the mental level. So where at the mental level we conceive something. हम किसी चीज को मन में उसका एक भाव लेके आते, समथिंग दैट वी look at and something that we want to do about it. Like if I'm looking at a cup of tea which is empty, right? And looking at that, I look at oh, this is the time for my tea. So what will I do? I will do some effort, chesta. So I will go to the kitchen and I will put the water on to boil. If it's milk tea, then I'll put some milk into that, and in this way I'll be able to make the tea. And then I'll be able to finally enjoy the tea. Bhog, right? So first is the mental visualization, then comes the desire within us to enjoy that. From that desire comes the planning, the visualization of how we will go about it, how we'll make that tea. Then we collect all the ingredients to do that action. Then after collecting all of those ingredients, what we do is we start to bring that thing to a conclusion, right? So then we start doing the action itself, which comes through the body. So that indriya, chesta, indriya, artha, ashraya we are talking about, this shariram, it becomes the mode of expressing our desires. So whatever was there at the conceptual level, at the mental level, it finally becomes our expression at the bhoga or finally the level of enjoyment of the fruit of our action, right? So every action will bring about a fruit. So that is the unchanging law of nature. Every cause will have an effect. So any effect cannot come out of any cause. So if any phala or any enjoyment that is there in the world, there has to be some effort behind that. So we'll look into the karma theory later on, or when the time comes. So another thing I want to emphasize in the class, there'll be a lot of doubts in you. There'll be a lot of topics that you think about what they will say later on. But I would advise you to take it one thing at a time, because then what will happen is, like in the last class, we were talking about the logical fallacies. So first you have to understand logic itself. Then you go for the logical fallacies. Right now, if I say, I would enumerate the 22 logical fallacies, then it will not make sense to you, right? You will not, but I can say, yes, it is going to come. So be prepared for that. The topic will come. So actually, there are not just 22 logical fallacies. There are more. So that the 22 are just given in the 5th chapter, in the first part of the second section, right? In the first verse itself. But then there are 4 more. So where we are talking about tarka. So in tarka, there is what we call kutarka. In the system of argument, there is the system of wrong argument. So there also 4 logical fallacies are there. And then of course we saw of the 16 elements, one of them is hetva bhasa. So hetu abhasa. Whenever we are doing any study, then in that study when we are looking at any action or uh, any uh, event that has occurred, we look for a cause. Cause hunting is the natural proclivity of the human mind. Human mind always looks for current. What cause is there behind? So Karan, it is always looking for what is the reason how something is happening. That is the basis of all science. That is the basis of all human, activity. Uh, there is always going to be some curiosity in our mind. That curiosity, to satisfy that, we run after that. So in this kind of activity, we are always have to remember that curiosity will finally take us to that chesta, which will be done through the body only, the sharir only, right? So in this part, we are looking at the chesta. So when we look at this sutra, as we see it, sutra we explained earlier also, the system what does it do? It creates limiting values. It defines something, and it defines the range, right? So when we are talking about shariram, what are the limiting values? Limiting values there: chesta, indriya, arthashray. So what does the sharir do? It is the abode of all the chesta, right? So what is the one of the more important ones there? Indriya. So Indriya, when comes to, someone might not understand Indriya. So this system is built very scientifically, so no one has any doubt about any definition. Right? Sometimes we read, some obscure works where they assume that you know a lot of definition. They assume that those definitions are already known to you, because for that you should have read those previous works, right? But when we are talking about a basic shastra, or a shastra where system of knowledge, or a book where some new terms are coming in, then the definition of those new terms should be very effectively and properly done. So these terms are always to be discussed in this way. So same way in this sutras also. So when we are looking at indriya, even though people might know what indriya means, what the sense organs are. So basically here we are talking about the organs of knowledge, the jnana indriya. So these jnana indriyas are then enumerated in the next one, in the next sutra. If you just look at the sutra, Ghrana, Rasna, Chakshu, Tvak, Shrotrani, Indriyani, Bhutebhya. They are these 5 systems, these 5 what we call karanams, or instruments of knowledge, or the indriyas. These are Ghrana, Rasna, Chakshu, Tvak, Shrotra. So Ghrana, this is the organ of smelling, the nose. So always remember, when we are talking about indriya, the nose that we look at, that is what we call the golak, the physical part that is going to experience something. but that nose is not the actual thing. The actual indriya is the power behind that, the smelling power, right? Always remember that it is the smelling power. So when we are talking about the ghrana, it is the smelling power. It is not just the nose, right? And similarly, so if you look at the translation below, it says nose, tongue. So it is correct, but it is maybe slightly misleading. So remember always, we are talking about the power. So rasna is the again tongue. So tongue is the tasting power we are talking about, because tongue has one more power which we call which is the karmendriya. What is that power? Anyone of you can remember? Manisha, George, what other power, what other karmendriya does tongue involve? What does the tongue do? As in tasting? No, tasting is, I have mentioned right now. No, tasting is a gyanendriya. Speaking? Yeah, speaking, right. Very good. So, karmendriya is vak, vani, speaking, the speaking power. So the speaking power also resides in the tongue, right? So we cannot say tongue is a gyanendriya. We have to say, when we are saying rasna, what is ras? Ras is the essence of something, right? So essence of something is when we are ingesting something, then we have to know the essence of something, that is the taste. So that taste we understand or we experience through the tongue. And then chakshu. So the third one is chakshu. So chakshu is the seeing power, right? It is experienced through the eye. So the eyes will experience the seeing power, right? Now, all of these are very simple simple topics. Sorry. But I'm just going slowly so you can grasp everything. Uh, and you might find some variations from what we've studied earlier. So we'll go into that also. So Chakshu, the seeing power. Okay, this class will end in 10 minutes, so please rejoin after that. On all for all of those who are on Zoom. So third one is Chakshu, the seeing power. Then the fourth is Twaka. Twak is the skin or the touch, the power of touch, or to feel something, have a feel of something, hmm, feel the texture of something, feel maybe the temperature of something. So through whatever we experience through the skin, that power of touch is Twaka. And then finally the Shrotra. So if you are looking at in terms of subtlety, then all of these are related to all the five elements. So it is written here also in the sutra: Ghan, Rasna, Chakshu, Tvak, Shrotrani, Indriyani, Bhutebhya. They are produced from the elements. So all of the five elements, they produce all these five Gyanendriyas. So Shrotra is the hearing power, the power that resides in the human ear, in the ear, or any being that can hear, right? So that is the Shrotra, related with sound. So all of these are the five Gyanendriyas, and they are produced from the bhutas. Huh? So if you can remember from Tattva Bodha, so from the Prithvi Tattva, the we divide them all the tattvas into they are split up by all the three gunas. So of the three gunas, what are the three gunas? Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas, right? So when we are talking about the sattvic part of the elements, so every element is split into three parts, split up by the three gunas. So when the three gunas act on these gyanendriyas, Ghan, Rasna, Chakshu, Tvak, and Shrotra, these are produced. So from the sattvic part of the Prithvi element, the earth element, or what we say the solid state, the solid part, that from that the dhrana is born. Similarly, from the second element, so these are all in order in terms of subtlety. Huh? The most gross is Prithvi Tattva, and the most subtle is Akash or space. So starting from Prithvi and going on to Akash. So similarly, starting from Ghana and going on to Shrotra. So when we are talking about the Jal Tattva, from that Jal Tattva, from the Sattvic aspect of the Jal Tattva, the rasna is produced, the tasting power is produced. Similarly, uh, this third one, chakshu, is from the fire element, right? Because jal produces the rasna. So chakshu from the fire element, right? So fire produces light. In that light only, so fire element represents not just the physical fire, but it represents all of light. In the presence of that light only, the objects can be seen. So that is why the chakshu element is associated with fire. It has been produced from fire. There is a very logical connection between all of these, right? And then tvaka, the power of feeling, the power of sparsha, power of touch. So that touch is that comes from the fourth element, which is vayu. And then finally, the shrotrani, what is left? The fifth element is space. From that comes the hearing power, right? So that why I'm saying what is left, it is a very important logic used later on also, what we call parisheshat nyaya. Because when we assign all of the five gunas to the five gyanendriyas, then we have what we call one-to-one association between all of these. And so all of these properties are indicative of the properties of the original element. All of these powers have something of those original element. And when we assign one guna to each of these, but the final guna, final property is sound. And sound, it is one of the most controversial of the gunas. And there has been lots and lots of debates in the Shastras where sound, we have to establish even whether the sound actually, it is a guna itself. Some say it is a dravya. Some say it is an element in itself. Some say sound is a guna. Some say sound is an action. So all of these, they logically make sense. We'll look at it sometime. So when we see the sound, for this, the fifth element being associated with the fifth Gyanendriya, that is the logical connection. So what we call, as I said, Parisheshat Nyaya, the law of remainders, right? So like I used this example earlier also. So if I keep five apples on my table and I have five very honest and very uh, obedient students. So I tell all of them, okay, these five apples are there, and uh, all of you take one of them, right? So now each of them, they take one apple each and they go. But the last apple, it is taken up by the fifth student. So no one has seen actually that fifth student take that apple. Huh. But I have seen that, I've asked all of the students and I've seen that they have taken one apple each. So obviously, who took the fifth apple? The fifth student. So that is Parisheshat Nyaya. Through that logic, I am able to know, yes, he definitely must have taken that fifth apple. So here also the fifth guna belongs to the fifth Gyanendriya. It produces the fifth Gyanendriya. And also logically also this sound and space are connected, right? So space and sound, space we say travels through, sound travels through space, even though it needs the medium of air, but it travels through space. So any sound it produces anywhere in the universe, even though there is huge space in between, it will travel and it will reach the earth or whatever point in where it can be experienced. So all of these are, as we have read again also, we have seen it earlier also, they are, all of these indriyas are produced from the five element, bhutebhya, right? So there we, when we analyze each of these one by one, we know that they all have properties which are very much common. So if we say ghranaha, it has the property of gandha. So gandha is smell, right? So smell is the property of Prithvi Tattva, and that is experienced by the ghrana. So that is the common point. So for any perception to occur, we say, any perception to occur, we say there is the rule that there has to be a common point, right? There has to be a common point. So for any two, say, sort of liquids to mix, there has to be a common point, so that where they can mix together. So in this similar way, when we are talking about the elements and their properties also, uh, so granaha is the sense of smell. That is why when we look at the sense objects, the five sense objects, the panch vishaya. So all of these five vishayas, they are experienced by these five sense organs. Each of them can experience one only. The nose cannot do the job of hearing, or the nose cannot do the job of seeing. Each indriya is able to do the job of producing or experiencing one kind of sense object. One kind of sense object does not mean one object. It means one guna or property of any object. So any object can have all five properties if it is in a solid state. But then to experience them, you will need the different sense organs. Each will experience different properties, right? So if I am looking at uh, something to eat, maybe an orange, right? So what will the grana do? It will be able to take the smell of the orange, that particular tangy smell of the orange. Rasna, the tongue, it can taste the orange. Then chakshu, it can visualize the shape of that orange. Twak, it can feel the texture of that orange. It can touch and see the rough shape of the skin, the soft shape of the inner parts, and so on. And then shrotra, if I hold it, if I press it, any kind of sound that comes out, I can hear that. So every object has uh, one or more of these gunas. These can be experienced by the Gyanendriyas, right? So then we are looking at Chakshu. Uh, Agni has the guna of form, Rupam. So Roop or form is the guna of Agni. So through Agni we can experience that form. So that form is, if it is to be experienced, we use the Chakshu Indriya. Then Tvaka. Tvaka is coming from Vayu. So Vayu has the quality of sparsha, quality of touch. So any kind of touch, it can be experienced through the Tvak Indriya. And similarly, Shrotra Indriya, the hearing power. uh, I think Zoom our time is over. So I'm restarting here. Just give me a minute or so to join, for everyone to join. Sorry for the inconvenience. Okay, then Zoom we have started. Manisha has joined. Man is joining, and George has joined. Okay. So let us continue then. So when we were looking at all of the five Jnanendriyas, the five organs of knowledge. So there we have seen the final one, Shrotra. It is associated with the fifth tattva, or the space. And space has the guna of sound, the property of sound. So that sound can be perceived or listened to or understood by the Shrotra, right? So each of these we say is the illuminator of those sense organs. Illumination is not just in the sense of seeing, but it can know them. So illumination is in the sense of knowing. That is why, if you remember earlier also, we've seen the word go. The word go represents, in its pure sense, it means, it does not mean cow only. It's the meaning of go is basically a ray of light. A system, it also basically means knowledge, knowing something. So how do we know? In secondary sense, then the indriyas are also called go. The indriyas are also called go. So that go or go is also a word used for indriya. Why? Because through indriya, that ray of light or that knowledge is also achieved, is also known. So these indriyas, they help us to know the objects around us. So that knowing, that conscious effort, that consciousness, that illuminates all of this is done through the indriyas. So the five sense organs help us to know the five sense of objects, right? And then when we know all these five sense objects, we have to just enumerate the five elements. So they are enumerated in the next sutra. So we'll just look at the 13th sutra. Prithivya apah tejah vayuhu akasham iti tani. So what are the five elements, right? So when we have talked about the bhutebhya, the bhutas, or the five great elements, Prithvi, apah, tejah, vayu, akasham, iti tani. So these are the five elements according to our Indian philosophy, right? So some people, they always have this confusion. Why five elements? Why these only five elements? The Westerners will say, oh, you have only five elements. We have discovered so many more, huh? 109, 110, and then so on, all of the artificial elements, you can say, the ones that are produced only in the laboratory. But what we are talking there about is basically what we call a combination of paramanus. That will come to later if we ever do Vaisheshik. But basically, when we are talking about the five elements, they are the five states of matter. Five states of matter. Each of them has a corresponding parmanu or a corresponding smallest possible particle. So when we are talking about Prithvi, it represents the solid state, right? And then when we are talking about Apaha or water, it represents the liquid state. Then Tejaha, it represents energy, right? Vayuhu, the gaseous state. So uh, Tejaha represents energy because energy also is a form of matter. This again we have proved through modern science, right? So by Einstein's equation, we can even do that transformation, right? And then finally Akasha, we've discussed in much detail about Akasha. It is also an element, right? Because when we look at the space itself, it borders or reaches the edges of the universe, and there it turns inwards, it bends inwards. So how can it be? It can be absence of everything. Akasha also is an element. And we also, if we look at all the different theories, our theory helps us explain why this Akasha is able to explain the dark matter in the universe. Because the universe, we say, is expanding. So this very element Akasha is also expanding. So if something is expanding, it cannot be merely absence of everything, right? And this expanding nature of Akasha proves it. So when Akasha is expanding, the other elements are merging back into it, and that accounts for the dark nature, for the dark matter. And when ultimately there will be pralayam, finally the whole of the universe will merge back into the elements, then only Akasha will remain. And that Akasha means the 100% dark matter will be Akasha only, because we can't see or weigh that Akasha. We cannot make a weight. But when we uh, triangulate the weight of the universe with the weight of the known or the visible elements, we will always find a lot of it, of the matter is hidden. So that is logically explained by our Shastra, by the understanding that all of these five elements represent five states of matter, and the Akasha is the fifth state of matter, right? So we saw the one-to-one correlation also of these five elements with the Gyanendriyas. So that we have seen in the previous sutra, the five Gyanendriyas, they are produced from all of these five elements, right? So now when we are talking about these visible five elements, they have come from which part? Uh, we say the subtle five elements have come into being from the visible five elements. So when we are talking about the gunas here, each guna acts upon every element, right? So when we are talking about the sattvic aspect, the knowledge aspect, that produces the indriyas. That is why indriyas are able to give us knowledge about objects around us. Sattvic aspect they have. Then similarly, when we are talking about the gross elements, then they have the from the rajasic aspect, we have the karmendriyas that we have not seen here right now. We will come to that later. But from the tamasic aspect, or the uh, third aspect of the three gunas, the one that is involved with stagnancy or with no motion itself. There, from there we get the five sense objects, जिसको हम कहते हैं विषय, पांच विषय, और अर्थ. So this is mentioned in the 14th sutra. We'll just have a quick look at that one. From the five elements, we also have these five sense objects. The five senses have been produced, and the five sense objects also. So, Gandha, Rasa, Rupa, Sparsha, Shabdaha, Prithivya, Adi, Gunaha, Tadarthaha. So, smell, taste, color, touch, and sound, these are the objects of the five senses. So these are gross. We can experience. That is why tamas is the most gross. So it produces the gross objects. Whereas the sattva is the most subtle. Sattva is most subtle. That is why we cannot see the indriyas. The indriyas do the job of seeing or do the job of experience. But we cannot see the indriyas. Why? Because every experience that we have, it comes through the indriyas only. So when we are talking about the five sense objects now, where each of these gyanendriyas, each of these sense organs, they will experience only one each of these gunas. So what are these gunas or the five sense objects? Gandha, smell; rasaha, taste; rupaha, color or form. It's written color here, but form is the more correct option. But of course, color is also correct. Then sparshaha, touch, and then shabda, sound. These are the five sense objects, right? So prithivya adi gunaha. So these are these gunas, they come from the prithivya only. Tadartha, that is being said here. So if we see the properties of these, prithivya is said to have the starting from when we look at the sutra, gandha rasa rupa sparsha shabdaha prithivya adi gunaha tadartaha. So successively from prithvi, each of these sense objects are produced. So gandha it comes from prithvi. Just like we saw in the previous, in the 12th and 13th sutra, the one-to-one correlation. This one-to-one correlation also occurs here. So from Prithvi, Gandha is produced; from Vayu, from Jala, Rasna is produced, or Rasa is produced; from Agni, Rupa is produced; then from Vayu, Sparsh is produced; and from Akashaha, Shabda is produced. So one-to-one correlation, each of these five elements from their subtle part is produced the five Gyanendriyas, the five organs of knowledge. From their tamasic aspect, from tamas part, is produced the five sense objects. So all of these five sense objects we have enumerated there in the 14th sutra. So all of these similarly then we can experience, that is why. So if Gandha, Prithvi and Grana, that a relationship is there. Prithvi is the holder of the guna called Gandha. That Gandha will be experienced by Grana, by the smelling power. The Vayu, uh, or serially if we go by the, Jalaha has the property of Rupaha. Is someone saying something? No. I just, anyone was saying something? Did I miss something? Okay. So, so this third one again, as we look, Rupaha is the property of the third element, which is Agni, and that is experienced by the third Indriya, Chakshuhu. Similarly, Sparshaha, it is the property of, it is the guna or the property of the fourth element, which is Vayuhu, and that Vayuhu is related to the Gyanendriya, which is called Tvakaha, the feeling power. And then finally, Shabdaha. Shabdaha, the fifth sense organ, fifth element, has the guna of Shabdaha. The Akashaha, Akasha has the guna of Shabdaha, and Akashaha produces the Gyanendriya, which is the Shrotraha, the hearing power, and the hearing power can perceive Shabdaha. Hearing power can perceive Shabdaha. So in this way, all this one-to-one relation occurs, right? Manisha is saying something? No. Okay. Okay, then I think today we have covered enough for this class. because we'll enter into a separate topic about how knowledge uh, is received through the Gyanendriyas, how it is analyzed, and how after analysis we form a composite picture of everything that we experience. So that is going to be the topic of the next few sutras. So we'll wind up the class for today. Anyone has any questions, anything you didn't understand, or if I was not very clear, then you may please go ahead and ask. Anyone from Clubhouse also you can ask. Maybe in the chat there are some questions. Let me see. Okay. So nothing in the chat, but if anyone wants to ask, then you can ask, or we'll wind up for today's class. Aman, anything? कुछ समझ नहीं आया, कोई doubt? George, Manisha? No? Okay, so today I was very clear, I hope. Good. Okay. Okay, then thank you everyone for coming. I will wind up today's class then. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Guru Bhyo Namaha. Hari Om. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for coming. Have a wonderful day and a wonderful week ahead. Hope to see you in the next class.
So
Okay.
one second.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. But I thought Maddie wanted to come up. It's fine.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, they've heard it in the previous class also. No? Yeah. Chalo. Bye, everyone. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.